Hi, beautiful souls. Good morning from my hotel room. I was speaking to a friend and this question came up, and it's come up in a lot of the spiritual circles. This whole question of this new era, this new time that we've been coming into, and that question of what happened. It seems as though there seemed to be a series of things that happened in our lives lately. Hugh Hefner, an icon of masculine sexuality, a big archetype in the world of bringing out masculine sexuality, what turns men on, seeing a lot of visual displays of women and women's bodies and in a very linear fashion, and a lot of sexuality as opposed to sensuality. And it seems like Hugh Hefner died, and then all these allegations against Harvey Weinstein came, and then, suddenly it starts. I was even speaking to a friend, and it seems like even in the corporate world and academic world, people are coming out of the woodwork to kind of watch and see all these professors or academic heads or corporate CEOs are coming out now where women are accusing them of things, inappropriate things, sexual harassment. And then the question then in that spiritual community starts to be, does Hugh Hefner dying have to do with anything? And of course, historians and spiritualists and mystics always know there's always a changing of the guard. There's always a kind of energy that a certain era has that is represented by a certain archetype, by the people that we choose as role models, that we see in our lives as kind of the people to be, the people to look up to, the people who kind of become household names. And we're definitely seeing that this is a changing of the guards. We're seeing a new era being ushered in. We're seeing, like an archetype or the phenomenon, the metaphor of someone dying and bringing out an old age and into a new age. The only problem is that we currently don't have a new guard. We actually don't have a new representative of what that sort of the new age of sexuality looks like, that new age of sensuality. There was a time when we would see, go to any of the museums in Europe, in the Louvre and the Musée d'Orsay, and you see the archetype of woman, of sexual goddess, of femininity, is a woman that is curvaceous, is very sensual, has a lot of sumptuous, and our correlation to how we looked up to those artists and how they represented woman and how they looked to woman represented a certain kind of being, a certain kind of time, an episode in our epoch, an episode in our time. And now we've come into this shift where, since the early days, of pixelation, what happened was that we started drawing linear lines across, horizontal lines and vertical lines, and at that axis is how we make pictures happen, how TV was invented, how the centerfold in a magazine was invented, and eventually how internet porn became invented. How we saw things and how we saw the image of woman became very pixelated and very linear. And gone were the days of the sensuous, of the curvaceous, of the sumptuous. And that really was sort of the era that we are now coming out of. The era that was the archetype of that was Hugh Hefner, the Playboy bunny, the centerfold. And we're coming into this new time. So I'd love to know, actually, put it in your comments below. I'd love to know, who do you see as the role model, as the archetype for this new era that we're coming into? Who's filling Hugh Hefner's role as the kind of quintessential sex procurer? How are we coming into this time? How are we prepared, and what are we prepared to do? This is a new wave, a new sexual revolution going on, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Did Hugh Hefner's death have to do with all these series of allegations that are coming out with the Hollywood elite? Put it in your comments. I'd love to hear. I'd love to expand this conversation more with you. Until then, see you later. Thanks so much. Bye.